All right, here we go. I'm here. Let's talk second round. As we all know, second round wrapped up yesterday. So a couple of results have come in and they are not what people expected. The Minnesota Timberwolves took down the reigning champs. There is going to be no repeat this year. No back-to-back, which is, to me, absolutely wild. I had belief in the Timberwolves that they were going to pull it out, but I really, in my mind, didn't see them pulling it off, which was crazy because when I look at it now that the series is over, the Minnesota Timberwolves have a much better lineup than I thought because they just have the cohesiveness that a lot of teams need to have as a championship roster. They work together as a team like they all need to. They've got all-star talent. They've got great role players that not a lot of teams have. Rudy Gobert, hats off too. I was saying to myself in the fourth quarter yesterday that Rudy Gobert needed to sit on the bench, and then he come out at the start of the fourth quarter and dropped an and one, shot some late clock fadeaway step back. Something that Rudy Gobert doesn't hit, let's be honest. But they pulled it off. Down go the Denver Nuggets. Hats off to the Denver Nuggets. Before I say anything else, they played a hell of a season this year. Jamal Murray, for the most part, he showed up yesterday, which for a lot of these last two series, he wasn't doing a whole lot of. So for him to show up when they needed him was huge. Although it wasn't enough, Nikola Jokic, still the best player in the world. I don't think anyone's going to argue that. Although it was a second round exit, there's no one that's going to argue that Nikola Jokic is the best player in the world. Michael Porter Jr. had a hell of a series. He was hitting the ball at a high clip like he always does, shooting from three. Not just that series, but both series. So they were playing well as a team. It's just in the end, Minnesota Timberwolves, they showed their strength. They went into Ball Arena, which for a lot of teams, they all complain about and say Ball Arena is one of the hardest stadiums in the whole league to play in. So for them to pull it out in the fashion that they did, hats off to them. They played brilliantly. On to the conference finals for Minnesota, which they haven't been in a very long time, and it's going to be weird to see them in that sort of scenario. As for the other Western Conference matchup, the Oklahoma City Thunder go down to the Dallas Mavericks. The Dallas Mavericks, Luka, Kyrie, they showed what they had in them in these games, especially Game 6. Kyrie in the second half doing like he has done for the whole playoffs this season. Done absolutely nothing in the first half and then come out in the second half and just hit some ridiculous shots and made some layups. He'd done everything you need to do. Luka, back-to-back triple-doubles in playoff games, which it's just expected of Luka at this point to be doing stuff like that. So for him to pull that off was crazy. As for OKC, you can't be disappointed as OKC fans. Of course, you want to go as far as you can and you want to perform in the right now, but nobody's arguing that OKC's future is not probably the brightest in the league. They have another 20-odd draft picks over the next 5 years, and they just made a conference semifinals appearance. When you say out loud, it's quite ridiculous because already they have all the pieces. They're such a young team. They're, half of them haven't even hit their prime yet. They're still going to develop. Cason Wallace, you got some massive minutes from him over this stretch. Chet Holmgren had his ups and downs. The only thing that I saw with Chet and OKC for these last couple of games is that their rebounding presence at times wasn't all the way there. Derek Lively and Daniel Gafford were getting on the boards a lot harder than some of these guys were. And that falls on Chet. It falls on, everyone collectively that they just need to get those rebounds because they were getting killed on the offensive rebounds. The second chance points were flowing for Dallas, and in the end, ultimately, it killed them. So for them to continue to build on that and look into this offseason and maybe get a rebounding big that you trust just to give you those bench minutes, because outside of Chet Holmgren, they really didn't have any tall bodies. Kenrich Williams, who didn't play, was probably the next tallest player. So they need to further develop in that center spot, in my opinion. get someone off the bench who can give you 15, 20 minutes a game that's going to rebound the hell out of the ball. There's been rumours about Andre Drummond filling that role for them, which I think he would be good in that role. But only time will tell what they do with that. As for Dallas, hats off to you. Western Conference Finals bound, second time in 3 years. They have really pulled themselves together as a team. These trades, I've spoken about it before, the trades with PJ Washington and Derrick Jones Jr. have been ridiculous changes for them. They have completely changed the dynamic of the roster. Derek Lively, bringing him in as a rookie, he's having an absolutely ridiculous rookie season. You don't really have to look at the numbers. You literally just watch the eye test and his impact on the court is felt. Daniel Gafford as well, giving Luka options to lob to, is opening up Luka's game so much more. You know, at the start of Luka's career, he had Maxi Kleber, Dwight Powell. They weren't really guys known for going up and getting those lobs. So for them to bring in people like this, Derrick Jones Jr., Daniel Gafford, Derek Lively, they can all be a presence around the ring and catch those lobs that Luka passes to them. Has opened up Luka's game. It has spread the floor for Luka. It's more deadly in that pick and roll now that they can make that pocket pass or they can go the lob over the top. It just expands the game for Dallas so much, and it's completely changing the way that they're playing basketball. Over to the Eastern Conference. Eastern Conference is a bit of a weird one. The New York Knicks, the time that they spent on the court caught up to them. I spoke about it after Game 5, I believe it was. There was a couple of injuries, OG Anunoby, those sort of guys. Yesterday, we had Jalen Brunson go down, which Jalen Brunson, it was a fractured hand. That's sort of just an accident that you can't really get away from. But Josh Hart's injury, it was the abdominal strain. It was just the amount of force that he was putting on his body night in and night out. And I spoke on this about how their health is a massive part of the amount of rest that they get. And for him to get no rest game after game after game, it wore his body out in the end and caused this abdominal strain. He played all of Game 7, which hats off to you, Josh Hart. I respect. You know, you put your body on the line for your team. And it wasn't enough in the end, unfortunately, but you could tell all of yesterday he was struggling. Like, he couldn't. There was bits where he was, grimacing, and it was hard for him. He only played 20-odd minutes, which is so unlike Josh Hart, but it was just not right for him yesterday. OG Anunoby, too, came out, started yesterday, gave them 4 minutes. He started off hot. He hit a couple of shots, scored 5 or so points, I think it was. Played 4 minutes, and the hamstring was just too much. He couldn't move to the point where he wanted to be moving. So he had to sit on the bench for the rest of the game. And, you can do the numbers. You got Jalen Brunson down, Josh Hart down, you got OG down, Julius Randle, Mitchell Robinson. All these guys fit your rotation. That is, those 6 names that I've just counted, that is a semi-decent playoff rotation all gone from their team. So the fact that Dante DiVincenzo, shout out to you, played a hell of a game yesterday, tried to keep your team in it. The fact that you lost all those players hurt their run in the end. And injuries are a part of basketball. They're a part of professional sports, like we all know. For this many to happen to one side, you can sort of point the finger at the rest aspect, because Tom Thibodeau, there's been questions about Tom Thibodeau his whole career. He's a great coach. I'm not taking that away from him. He's a great coach. But for you to run your players to the ground like this, it's not a coincidence that the Celtics, a team that are running a 9-man rotation and still giving Jalen and Jason this sort of like a decent bit of rest compared to the Knicks that you're giving your players, it kind of shows that maybe it's not, maybe it's all freak accidents and maybe it's not linked, but it's hard to look past it when it gets to that point. Anyway, as for the Pacers, hats off Pacers fans. You guys are just balling right now. There's Miles Turner has played out of his skin the last 2 rounds. Tyrese Halliburton started to find his shot again, started to actually look at the basket, which I pleaded for him a couple of weeks ago. Started to do that, and it's changed the dynamic of the team. Andrew Nembhard has hit some big shots during this playoffs. TJ McConnell, I don't think words can describe how well TJ McConnell has played as a player this playoffs. He's come off the bench and he has just scored like no tomorrow, and then gone on the other end of the floor and locked down the other team's best player. It's, nobody, I don't think anybody that you would speak to would say in that bracket between the Milwaukee Bucks, the Philadelphia 76ers and the New York Knicks that the Pacers are going to walk out of that. So, you talk about the injuries to the New York Knicks, but at the end of the day, there is a massive effect on, the other team has to play well, because although it is injuries and stuff, professional sports, every player is there for a reason, and every player can impact the game in their own different way. Yes, they're not, the superstar players that they're accustomed to putting out there, but they're still professional basketball players. They're still going to impact the game in a massive way. But that's all I really have to say about that. Yeah, but that's pretty much it. The Celtics wrapped it up the other day. We already spoke on that. So, Western Conference and Eastern Conference Finals, we will speak about that tomorrow. Game 1 starts tomorrow. I think it's the Celtics and the Pacers. That'll be a great game. But until then, I don't really have much to say. Enjoy yourselves, guys. I'll see you tomorrow for more basketball. I'm very excited. Conference Finals when basketball gets really good. So I will see you guys then.